Hey everybody, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for January 3rd, 2021. Gotta get my year right. Welcome to a new year. We all survived the year to end all years, 2020. Most of us did anyway. And but being the holidays, we're in a pretty quiet time right now. So there's not a lot launching, but there is a lot to look forward to. So let's take a quick look back and a look forward. Let's see. Last week there was only one launch, an Ariane Soyuz with the CSO2 payload. Let's check that out real quick. Largage du VKM, allumage du triétage. À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top, décollage. And from all the lush greenery there, we can tell that that was launched from Kourou, French Guiana, as opposed to Baikonur or Vostochny. So, yeah, that was the only launch last week, and it was successful. Good news for Ariane Space, who's had a rough road these past couple of years with some couple of high-profile failures. Not with the Soyuz, though. The Soyuz doesn't really fail, and when it fails successfully, like with the MS-10 Crew launch a couple of years ago. The broadcast, I must say, the Ariane Space broadcast, I don't know if they changed some personnel or what was going on, but they had the background French. First of all, they didn't have their normal English, like their normal British presenters, or, well, I think they have a Brit and an American, and they didn't have either of them. And the sound balance was like, I couldn't understand anything because the translation that was spoken over the top of the French was accented, and the French language in the background was too loud. So hopefully Ariane Space gets their production, their live stream production process figured out, because that was a difficult stream for me to follow. I basically didn't understand anything that they said. We got to watch the rocket launch, though, which was cool. So looking ahead to this week, this is going to be a fairly short Space Week, but we are going to look beyond this week to the rest of this year at some of the launches we have, the launches and events we have to look forward to. But this coming week, there is only one. Well, there are no launches, in fact. There's no launches until the 14th or something like that. And there's only one live stream this week. On Wednesday, January 6th at 9:45 a.m. Eastern, 2:45 p.m. GMT, Northrop Grumman's Cygnus NG-14 cargo craft departs the ISS. So that's this Wednesday, and I will be streaming that here for you, so you can see Cygnus NG-14 leave the ISS. Now, bear in mind, Cygnus is one of the variety of cargo craft that do not land in one piece anyway. They're not like the SpaceX Dragon cargo module that splashes down, or the Soyuz crew module that touches down. So Cygnus will burn up with loaded with trash and other unnecessaries. And that's the only thing going on this week. So looking ahead to some of the things we have coming at us this year, there are now, bear in mind that launch schedules change all the time. Launches are scrubbed, delayed, new launches are put on the schedule. Sometimes launches are canceled, like entirely. But at this time, there are 122 launches currently on the schedule for 2021, according to the spacedevs.com, who collate such information. Later this month, in January, we have a Firefly Alpha from Firefly Aerospace, scheduled for its maiden flight into low Earth orbit. Before I get further into the future launches, if you have questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat. Make sure to tag my name, Rawspace, so that we are sure to notice it. And I'll try to get to them in a timely manner. Let me pull up my side window here. All right. Okay, so Firefly Alpha. February, not much going on, just normal. So I'm not including like just regular, boring launches of communication satellites, spy satellites, Earth observation satellites. Yeah, that's routine stuff. But looking ahead to March, China will be launching their first Tianhe space station module, the Tianhe-1. So that'll be exciting for China. Boeing will attempt their second orbital flight test of the Starliner spacecraft on top of an Atlas V rocket. If you recall, last year, Boeing launched, a Boeing Starliner launched, and then the onboard clock on the craft thought that it was 11 hours further along in its mission, and pretty much freaked out and consumed most of its fuel, and they had to abort their approach to the ISS, or their attempted approach to the ISS, and they were able to recover the craft. They modified its orbit so they were able to land in New Mexico, and they picked up the craft with no problem, but it didn't reach its destination because of the computer issue. Also in March, SpaceX will be launching Crew Dragon for the second time with an ISS expedition crew. So Crew 1 is currently still on the station, and then in March they'll launch Crew 2. In April, China will launch the Shenzhou 12 crew spacecraft to the Tianhe space station, as well as a Changzhou 2 cargo craft. So we've got the module, the crewed spacecraft, and the cargo craft all heading into low Earth orbit for China. And Russia will launch a new Uzlovoy module called Prichal to the ISS, so that'll be a new space station module. In May, Boeing Starliner will have its first crewed test flight to the ISS, similar to SpaceX's Demo 2. with Bob and Doug. And then also in May, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, will launch, bound for the asteroid Didymos. Solar system missions are always exciting. In June, a Rocket Lab Electron will launch the Capstone mission into lunar orbit. Then in July, Russia will launch a new multipurpose laboratory module called Nauka to the ISS. In August, Relativity Space will launch their Terran 1 rocket for the first time. Always root for the new up-and-coming launch providers. In September, is, let's see, a ULA Vulcan rocket will launch on its maiden flight to the moon with the Peregrine lunar lander. Russia will also launch, I'm sorry, that was, the Vulcan rocket. That's from ULA. And Russia will launch their Luna 25 mission to the moon. I think that's a lander. And Atlas V will launch the Lucy mission to study the Jupiter-Trojan asteroids. We've been waiting for Lucy for a while. Well, basically any solar system mission, especially any outer solar system mission, it is a long time coming. By the time it launches, we've been talking about it for years. In October, a Falcon 9 will launch the Nova C lunar lander to the moon, and the James Webb Space Telescope will hopefully be launching to the Sun-Earth L2 Lagrange point on an Ariane 5 rocket. That is in October, if it doesn't get delayed again. So cross your fingers and toes and hope that nothing goes wrong, and hope that it unfolds its origami self without incident. And hopefully shortly after it launches in October, we'll have the next great space telescope. Although it is an infrared telescope, the James Webb is an infrared telescope, not an optical telescope like the Hubble. Well, it's still collecting photons, but in the infrared range, not the optical range. So, that is October. And then in November, NASA's long-awaited SLS rocket will hopefully be launching Artemis 1 into lunar orbit. And I believe that first launch will be unmanned. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And then also in November, Boeing's Starliner will carry its first expedition crew to the ISS, equivalent to SpaceX's Crew 1, which is currently there. And those are the highlights for this year, according to what I was able to glean from the Space Devs / Next Rocket schedule. So, taking a look at the chat. Well, first of all, before we get into answering questions, I do want to welcome our new member to the channel. And I'll say members. I think that's the command. Welcome to Airs, A-I-R-E-S, I believe is the pronunciation. Welcome to our new Rawthling. All right, now, questions. So if you're curious, channel memberships is just a way to support the channel with a small monthly monetary donation, and you get perks like custom emojis, like the Bennu, and others, as well as your name appears in green in the chat, and there's some other perks that you can look at the different membership tiers if that is of interest to you. All right, today. And Chris V, I thank you for assisting with the questions, and I'm sorry I did not get the Nightbot command ready for you with the questions prompt. I'm a little disheveled today, unshaven and scruffy-haired. So Ian Pedler, what is the answer to the universe, and everything? Well, somebody already answered that in the chat incorrectly. The correct answer is, of course, 42. MVM Motovlog Music, sorry if you've already answered, but how is your year in review edit going? So yes, I am in the midst of editing a compilation of all rocket launches in 2020. I had hoped to get it done by the end of the year, but I started too late, and the end of the year is busy with family and other events, and so I've been, and plus I had a work thing to do. So I'm not well, so it's not quite done yet. I'm halfway through July. Maybe within a week or so I'll have it done, but pretty soon. And it'll be a monster. It'll probably be, I'm guessing, about 2 hours and 15 minutes long, because there were over 160 launches last year. So, but it's really neat to see, because normally we see launches separated by, days of time, and then we watch each launch one at a time. But seeing a compilation of launches gathered together is really neat, because you can sort of get a bigger view of what's going on or what happened. But yeah, so I'm in mid-July at this point, and I was also facing some technical issues with my computer was crashing, but I got that resolved, fortunately. Some small stuff asks, how can you speak at space? Well, I'm on the command deck of my ship, which is as yet unnamed, but that's just green screen silliness. You can't speak in space, because if you were to be floating in space and took off your helmet, all of the air would exit your lungs and you would begin to die quickly. And in addition to being in agonizing pain and unable to breathe, even if you did move your vocal cords in space, there's no air to convey those vibrations, and so there will be no sound, unless you have a microphone that is attached to your body and picks up the vibrations, like physically, not requiring transmission through the air. But I wouldn't recommend trying it, because you will probably die in the vacuum. Let's see, MVM Motovlog Music asks, anything on Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic to look forward to? How about Dream Chaser? So Blue Origin, let's see. You know what, let me... Blue Origin, New Shepard. Well, okay, so the launch sites aren't going to list New Shepard launches, because those are suborbital, and those aren't usually listed on the launch sites. So they don't usually cover suborbital launches. New Glenn, I do not think that they are far enough along with the development of that we can particularly expect a launch this year. They may be testing, I don't know, maybe they'll cobble together a hop test later this year, because of course New Glenn is supposed to be reusable. They have been working hard on the, Blue Origin has been working hard on the launch tower for the New Glenn rocket at Kennedy Space Center, which really is a monster. Let's see if I can find an image of that. No, there's not much. I don't think there's much to see yet, but it's being assembled at Kennedy Space Center, and it is going to be a biggie. And Virgin Galactic. So the Virgin Galactic, Virgin everything has been having some challenges. So Virgin Galactic launches their Spaceship 2 rocket off of a carrier aircraft, and Virgin really likes carrier aircraft. So the Spaceship 2 is a crewed, basically a space plane, and the last time they launched it, I think the engine shut down right after launch. The crew was fine, but they were unable to complete their mission or reach orbit. Not orbit, but unable to reach space. Spaceship 2 is suborbital. It's not an orbital class rocket. And the Launcher 1, which is actually an orbital rocket, is with Virgin Orbit, not Virgin Galactic, related but not the same organization. But they all fall under the wing of Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson. So Launcher 1, the last time they attempted to fly was a few months ago, and they had an issue with, again, the engine just after release from the 747 carrier aircraft, and that test launch failed. But they did get a lot of data from it, which is really what test launches are for. So hopefully they can take that and perhaps later this year. These sort of test launches are not usually announced far in advance because of the nature of testing and development. But we can probably look forward to another Launcher 1 launch, test launch later this year, perhaps even to orbit. So Dream Chaser, I haven't been keeping tabs on that one. I don't have any information on that. It's not in the news much. There's not much noise about it. So, all right. MVM Motovlog Music, is Bigelow Space out of business? I wouldn't think so. They have their inflatable module on the ISS. Bigelow Aerospace. Number of employees 0 in the world. All right, let's see what the article has to say. Oh, okay. So I would say Bigelow does have their inflatable module attached to the ISS, but in March 2020, the company laid off all 88 of its employees, ostensibly due to the pandemic, and their plan is to rehire them when conditions permit. So I would say that Bigelow is not necessarily out of business, but they are in hibernation. The plan is not to, at least the stated plan is not to ditch the company, but rather to put it on hold until operating conditions are more amenable. So it's kind of something you can do with 88 employees, not so much with like 6,000, but actually SpaceX has 8,000 now. When Falcon Heavy launched in 2018, it was only 6,000. So, thank you so much for answering questions. You're quite welcome. Ian Pedler, you have to wonder at these people. Let's build a rocket. Where shall we go? Not into space. I guess. Well, even suborbital rockets, they still go to space. They just don't orbit the Earth. Because you can even, there are suborbital launches to 1,000 kilometers in altitude, which is really quite high. I mean, the space station orbits at, 400 kilometers? So, but the thing is, they don't have sufficient, their trajectory for one thing, and also they don't have sufficient orbital velocity to maintain an orbit around the Earth. So, all right. Michael Smith, I asked an astronaut why they call it the vacuum of space, and he said, when you run out of air, you're going to die soon. Die soon. Die soon. Okay, I get it. It's a pun. I appreciate puns. Somewhat. All right, so so this was a quickie, so to speak. There is not much happening at this moment, but we have a lot to look forward to, and I'll be here to cover it for you and to experience it with you. I'm not seeing any more questions, so thank you all for coming. And we will go ahead and wrap this up unless there's anything pending. Let me scroll real quick. Uh, MVM doesn't seem like there's a lot of launches on the schedule. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic is still going strong, so um, that is definitely affecting the pace of business. And uh, unfortunately, that means sometimes not so many launches. Plus, this is winter in the northern hemisphere, and I don't know. I haven't done any sort of. It would be interesting to do some broader analysis of launch numbers over like per month over month or year over year to see generally what the pace of space activity is. Like are certain times of the year generally more active for launches than others? Does it matter whether it's winter or summer? I'm not sure. But because all of the major launch facilities in the world are in the northern hemisphere, where it's currently wintertime, there's, Electron's launch pad in Mahia, New Zealand, but that's, one small rocket amongst, a large, whatever. It's a small portion of the global rocket launch pantheon. All right. Chris V, Raw, are your emoji working right? So, okay, this is totally off topic, but relevant to the chatters because the custom emojis. Now, the YouTube emojis are working fine, but the custom emojis, if you're on desktop and you try to use the colon shortcut for the emoji, like colon Bennu, and you're a channel member, if you type it out completely, so colon Bennu colon, it will put the emoji. If you just type it partially and let's say BEN and then press tab, YouTube is being screwy and it replaces it with the words raw Bennu and it doesn't put the emoji. But if you type colon Bennu colon, then it does put the emoji. So that's the answer to the emoji question. Snow Kittens says Virgin Orbit is possibly launching next week already. So they don't live stream their launches, but they will let us know after the fact, and I can include it in the following SpaceWeek whenever they do make their next launch attempt. Yep, we definitely have to look forward to Rocket Lab attempting to catch their Electron first stage booster. So they've already splashed one down on a parachute in the water. But their next step is going to be, and their next step is going to be to catch it on with a helicopter. So we'll see how that goes. It should be fine when they do it because they've already tested the technique and it works. Station 240 says Puerto Rican government has signed an executive order December 28th, stating that it was the formal policy of the Commonwealth to rebuild the 305-meter radio telescope at Arecibo Observatory. That's interesting because Arecibo was under the management of the National Science Foundation. Anyway, the U.S. government agency, and not the Puerto Rican government. But I don't know if they're going to reuse the same location to build their own Puerto Rican observatory. But hey, the more the merrier. If a radio telescope is built, then that's great news for astronomy, for radio astronomy. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I will go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for coming. I hope that you had a pleasant holiday, Christmas, etc., and a good New Year. And let's hope that 2021 is not an utter dumpster fire like 2020 was. Fingers crossed for that one. But keep it raw. Thanks for coming, and I will see you again. Well, I'll see you again next week, and then I will hopefully see you during the Cygnus undocking later this week. Bye for now.
Space